Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a Paragon Guide. I am Sylphin. This video culminates all of the math that I have released in the past week or two into one big guide. How do you make the perfect deck with all that we know here in Monolith? I'm taking all of the math videos into account. I am taking the how to build the perfect structure of a deck into account. Everything. So if you have kind of wondered, how do we do that here in Monolith with all that we know, what is the best way to build a deck? So ladies and gentlemen, if we want to take everything into account, what is the best hero to do so? Just as an example for you, I think I want to take into the health and armor video. I want to take the damage versus penetration and damage versus the attack speed and crit video into account, and that perfect deck structure, and maybe showcase that fury, that special fury option there, even though it's just 5-point cards instead of 6. I still want to show that to you. So who can benefit from all three of those? That would be Greystone. He is a fantastic hero here that can really use all three of those kind of videos that I've done, and since he's very meta right now, it'd be super appropriate. So we're gonna do a Greystone build here. And I'm going to want to emphasize the fact that he can stay alive for much longer and simply just do that damage while he is alive. Maybe try to get some lifesteal and see exactly how that works. So what is the prime card? I'm going to go for damage. I'm going to go for damage because he's a fighter that's naturally tanky, and I want to focus on his fighter-ness. So we're going to go for the Archmages. I like this one better, simply because hopefully you are fighting on a tower. Hopefully you pick that lane to force the team fight that forces the enemy team to be defending. So hopefully if you want to focus the structures, not that big of a deal. That's just the one that I prefer myself. So we're going to start with the early game. We're going to start with the early game, those 6 hopefully 5-point cards that we're going to see. So right off the bat, I'm going to get not a bump juice, actually. I want to get a guard token on Greystone for that off lane because they're going to have a lot of poke. So I want to try to mitigate that with the guard token and then go for a healer token. The nice thing about this is that it has 2 equipment slots, which works perfectly. 2 quick equipment slots, the very first 3 CP, bang. You can just sit there with the healer token ticking away and the guard token, bam, awesome. The next card though is going to have to be a ward. Now this is going to be a 6-point cost. It's not 5, but there's simply no 2-point wards yet. Maybe they're coming, I don't know. Now an interesting option, definitely not for Greystone though, is a Lord's Ward. If you are a support and you're CP starved, it gives you 4 CP of value the moment you equip it. The moment you equip it, you don't have to put in upgrades. So that's a very nice option. Not going to work for Greystone. I am going to go for the Guardian's Ward because I want that little bit of health as an option, and because we'll definitely still be in that off lane. We're going to get 1 minor cast and 2 lesser health just to have that barrier in case a good gank happens, etc, 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 and try to go from there. Now though, we're going to accentuate that fighter advantage in the early game with damage, and now we're going to go into our 2-point cards. So I'm going to go into some Madstone Gems and some Flashfire Pistons here. I'm going to primarily go for Madstone Gems simply because you need that power mathematically, right? From that power versus attack speed versus crit video, you need that power in the early game to have that sort of critical mass that then attack speed and crit can increase the DPS from. So we're going to go here with a Madstone Gem and get a whole bunch of minor casts. The next one here is probably going to be another one. I'm just going to simply say another one here with a whole bunch of minor casts. Minor casts here for some more power and that little bit of attack speed. Now, somebody mentioned a very interesting idea with Greystone on a recent Greystone video, or forget what video it was, and that actually goes for something interesting. And it's actually a Silver Spear. In that early game, we can really use that health regen to maximize our effect in lane. Now, I have been toying with this idea, and you know what? It actually sounds really good. If we have our ultimate there and we have that health regen, we can just kind of stick around permanently and just get our CP, get our experience, and I actually really like the idea. So, you know what, we're going to try this even though it's a 3-point card. So we're going to get 2 minor casts and a lesser heal. We're basically now, once we get this, we're going to have basically 2 healer tokens. Kind of, 2 healer tokens worth of value. So instead, we're going to go these into the Guardian's Ward, into the Silver Spear, into 2 Madstone Gems, and we need 2 additional cards here. I still want to go for maybe some attack speed. So, you know what? We're going to do exactly that. We have 5 more minor casts, so let's go for a Flashfire Piston with... I don't have enough kinetics. Let's see if I can fix that. And we did it. I was able to craft one by getting rid of some other cards. So there you go. That is a fair amount of kinetic there in the early game. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points of kinetic all of a sudden. Top of the 2 here. So now we have 7 attack speed. And how much damage? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. More than enough damage here to warrant this attack speed. So it is perfect. There is our 5. And you know what? We can maybe go into another interesting card. Now, I'm kind of feeling like that's a lot of damage. A little bit of health here on the Guardian's Ward. We do have some good health regen, but we'll probably at this point take out our healer token. So I kind of want some health. And what is a good option here? And I think it's going to be this Pain Eater, to be honest with you. So we're going to add it directly because that is going to be part of our final build. I really like the while critically wounded passive for Greystone simply because he gets twice. He gets it twice. He's critically wounded on his first life and for his second life. I love the idea, plus that 40% lifesteal. I really like it. So we can debate here whether we go for another 6-point card before we go into that, or a 5-point card, but I kind of don't really like any of the other options. We have the Elder Mage Amulet with a little bit of power with that health. So you know what? Let's see if this works. I'm going to get 2 cast here and a lesser health for 200 total health there. So that is our early game build. There is our 6 cards here. And now we need to go into our end game build. So I'm gonna say that the Pain Eater here is one of the cards in the end game, and that's going to be one that we don't upgrade. Remember, we have equipment slot issue. We need to kind of consider those equipment slots. So out of all of these cards here, which is the 2 that we're going to keep for the end game? It's definitely going to be this Guardian's Ward. I should definitely keep that as well as something else. Now, depending on the other cards we get, could be the Madstone Gem and the Flashfire Piston. As the Silver Spear, that health regen is going to start falling off in terms of its relative value to everything else. So I think it's going to be the Guardian's Ward and a Madstone Gem, but it depends on the other cards that we get. So we got the Guardian's Ward and a Madstone Gem and the Pain Eater as our last card. Now that leaves a whole bunch of CP for our other 3 cards. So in 3 cards here, we're going to have 6 and 5 is 11, and this one here is 16 CP. So we have a whole bunch of CP here to use. 44 for 3 cards. I don't think we can spend 44 CP on 3 cards, but we're certainly going to try. So I think I have actually changed my mind. While I appreciate the Pain Eater definitely for Greystone, and I think that it is a wonderful card, in this build, I don't think we're going to get it, and instead, Everglass. Now, the unique passive is on hit with ability, gain 40 max movement speed for 1 second. Now, Greystone has a absolutely fantastic ability to work with this. His Make Way, his AoE sort of blade storm that he does around him. Once we can get onto an enemy, we use Make Way, proccing this passive, meaning that we can stay on the enemy so easily. And you know what? In the past, especially here with Monolith, I think that's super important. So we're going to try to make Everglass work here. Now, what else do we want? I think that we need to get a little bit tanky. They suggest some health, and you know what? Maybe we can work health in through lifesteal. So I want to instead maybe go for some armor. Now there is some actually really interesting cards here. Golden Veil and its basic armor equivalent, Bright Steel Plate, both giving us crit chance and basic armor. So I think what we're going to do is go for the Golden Veil and the Bright Steel Plate. What that's going to do is give us that basic armor option, but it's also going to, which as you can see is 4-point upgrades, also giving us that crit chance option, which is definitely worth it for Greystone. So basic armor, he has a lot of it already, but you do need a lot of it. Remember from that health and armor video, you do need a lot of it in order for health to start being better. So we're still going to add 2 Celestial Barriers and a Zealous Wound in this one. On our Golden Veil, we're going to do the opposite. Abilities are so painful. They hurt. So we're going to get 4-point Celestial Barriers because those abilities nuke us down. And that is exactly what we don't want. We don't want to be nuked down because we work our magic over time. So that's what we're going to do there. Now you might be thinking, well, that's a lot of crit, so you need the crit bonus. I think we can make the crit bonus work. Our 4 endgame cards is that Everglass, Golden Veil, and the Bright Steel Plate. So if we're going to do that, we need one other card. Now, if we have those 2, well, that's 1, 2, 3 basically tanky cards. So we need some damage. We did say we might want to go into some lifesteal. So we do have the Hunger Maul and the Sword of the Altar as options here. I think we have to consider that maybe we skip lifesteal and go for power simply because kind of lacking it there. We don't have very much here in the Guardian's Ward and that Madstone gem. Not a fair amount, I suppose. It's a tough decision, and you know what? Let's try to add lifesteal and see how much power we have later on. Now, the nice thing about this is that we have not that much of an option here in terms of upgrades. So I think that's not going to work here. Does our 4 endgame cards add up to 48 CP? And it actually adds up to 49, which is actually perfect because our Guardian's Ward is 3, and then the Madstone Gem that we are keeping is actually 5. So that makes 15 plus the 49 is perfect. Yeah, 49 and 11. Hold on. Yep, I am right. Does add up to 60. So now we have to go through our build and see what exactly. Does this make sense? Does this make sense? Do we have enough damage to warrant this lifesteal and the crit bonus? Do we have enough crit here to warrant the crit? Is the math, are the ratios here for Greystone for this build, does it make sense from our damage, attack speed, and crit video? So how much damage to attack speed to crit do we have right now? So right now we have 8 damage, 1 attack speed, and 9 crit. That is definitely not the appropriate ratio for Greystone, as he is a 1-to-1-to-1. So, with that said, we do have a lot of lifesteal, so I don't think that's necessarily going to be the best, simply because if we don't have a lot of damage, well, that damage doesn't then feed into the lifesteal that much. So what we can do is maybe convert this lifesteal here into just damage. And then we can tinker around with the attack speed here, see if we can get a 5-point card with just a lot of attack speed. So let's do that here. Let's change out this Hunger Maul for one that has damage. So 3-2-2 for that upgrade, and we're going to go over to the crit bonus. That's going to be the Blade of Agora with 3-2-2. Now that's a lot of damage now all of a sudden, so we need a lot of attack speed, which is definitely what is lacking here. So we can just switch the Madstone Gem for our Flashfire Piston. This is the one that we're going to keep in the late game. Now, how much damage to attack speed to crit is this now? Well, now we are 12 to 5 to 9. We're a little bit closer. So what now we're going to do is maybe actually put attack speed into our crit bonus with the blast harness. So now we're going to go 3 to 2 in here, and then we're going to actually switch back to the Madstone Gem that we keep. So now how much damage attack speed crit do we have? And now we have 8 damage, 9 attack speed, and 9 crit. Now that is, I think, as pretty much solid as we can make it here if we're going to go for these stats here. That's not that much CP's worth into damage, but I think that's appropriate. I think this is more appropriate than maybe you would realize. Damage in the early game with, you know, just trying to survive that laning phase with the Guardian's Ward and the Silver Spear, into a lot of damage here with these 3 5-point cards, and again that Elder Mage Amulet into the mid game, just because that health is going to help once people start doing more damage. And then we can go into much more tanky in the late game, which as a fighter is definitely something that they struggle with. Obviously casters and obviously the carries are going to be doing a lot of damage, so we need to kind of counteract that, and I think building tanky in the late game makes sense for a fighter, for a damage fighter. If they're going to build tanky anywhere, it's going to be there in the late game. And I think this makes sense. I really do think this makes sense. So let's see here now if 8, 9 to 9 is actually the most appropriate. And it is. Look at this. Damage, 8 damage to 9 crit is actually exactly where the highest DPS lies for that. Now let's go over to the damage, 8 and 9. Let's see if that's exactly where it is. That is exactly where the highest DPS lies. So now let's see exactly what our total DPS is actually going to be. We're actually going 8, 9, and 9. 9 is 18 plus 8 is 26 total points, with a ratio of 8 to 9 to 9. So that makes 26 is the total ratio. 8, 9, 9. 8 damage is being calculated right in here, and our DPS is only 228. So not very much, but remember, we have a lot in the early game. As you are transitioning into that final build, you're getting rid of your DPS. So actually your DPS will be probably a little bit higher, maybe, or at least this much for a majority of the game there in that mid game, which is definitely, I think, maybe the most important part of Monolith right now, since really struggles to get very much higher. So only 228 DPS there in the late game, but you know what? We'll be tanky, we'll be sticking on like glue to whoever we are fighting. Probably because we don't have any penetration in this build, probably going to want to try to focus the casters with their lowest base amount of basic armor. Now we go over to the armor side and make sure that and kind of verify that what we are doing on the tank side is actually appropriate. Even though we can't really change anything, we're still going to look. So basic armor, we have 10 total basic armor. If we go over here to our build, 4, 8, 9, 10 there on that. And what I've actually done is included, I've included his passive here in the base armor. I've included his passive on top of his base armor, and I've also included the health that we've already added, that 3 CP from the Guardian's Ward, plus I included his ultimate, giving him 70% of that amount. So he has a total health, once you actually get rid of his ultimate and then kill him after that, he has a total health of 2,955. So now we have to see if that is exactly optimum. We have 10 basic armor and 0, which is kind of treating this like, you know, we have etc. We can see, yes, indeed, that is exactly what we want here. 6,427. I should make it so that we can see how much, you know, if we put that 3 CP instead into armor. But it's really hard to include his passive in here because 70% of that, and etc., etc. We can certainly try to take that into account. So here, I think I have done it right. What we do have is 3 CP of health, but with his ultimate, it actually turns into 255 health. Once you get 70% of that additional that you've built, it actually works out to 255, so it's actually very close right here. So now we have 5 and 10, which is definitely more accurate. And as you can see, no, it's actually right. Oh, it's way down there. So in the basic armor department, we aren't necessarily the most efficient. We can get about 400 extra effective HP against basic attacks, but you have to consider that health also affects ability armor. So now we can go over to ability armor and take a look at this. We have a lot more. 4, 8, 12 plus the 2 on that other card is 14. 14 ability armor and 5 health. Let's see if this is actually indeed correct. 50. Remember, don't take this color coding into effect. That's something else because we've changed all the values. Don't look at that color coding. We have 5977, and it's definitely all the way over here to the armor side. Very interesting. So if we wanted to, we could get rid of that health because it is not favorable on either basic armor or ability armor. So you know what? Let's in fact do exactly that. We're gonna take away this Guardian's Ward here with this health and simply just go into damage. All damage here the whole way. 2 extra points of damage. Now we are 10, 9, and 9, which is definitely a little bit more. That's gonna help. I'm not going to go back and tweak 11, 9, and 9 and see if we can tweak it because I don't simply think we can. We could go back into Flashfire Piston, but then we don't have enough damage, etc., etc. So we're going to leave it there. That is the fine-tuning there that we can do here in this early game. And you know what? Because we got rid of that health, let's see here. Well, the Elder Mage Amulet is the last of our early game cards to get, so maybe that health isn't going to be all that important. But you know what? Let's do that. Let's make that little bit of an optimization. And other than that, there you go. There is the culmination of everything that we know, guys. There is a culmination of everything we know. The perfect deck structure, getting 6 6-point cards and 3 2-point cards here, or more rather 3 6-point cards, 3 5-point cards into 4 endgame cards that have a lot of CP on them, and a ward even we managed to get in there in the late game. I very much like that. I always say if you don't have a ward in your endgame build, you're wrong. I'm very happy to actually do that here because some builds I don't. Just because, maybe, I don't know. So there you guys go. Health versus armor we've taken into account. We've taken into account the damage, attack speed, and crit video. We can't do pen. We can't do pen. I don't think that there is an option here because we, arguably, actually, ladies and gentlemen, we could get rid of this Madstone Gem because that is one attack speed that we'd simply be missing. And you know what? Actually, maybe let's do that. Look at this, still making tweaks right to the end, simply because that is going to be more effective. Penetration is better than damage as long as you are piercing armor. So you know what? I think we should do that. Now it's going to be skewed in damage's favor a little bit, and you know what? Or can we? We need to take 1 CP from somewhere else, though, in order to make this work, because this is 5 cost, and this will be 6. So you know what? I think we can do that. I think we can do that. What we're going to do is get rid of this Madstone Gem, put 1 point Pierce upgrades. Oh, and let's see if we can find Pierce elsewhere, or if there's a better card. No, there simply isn't. So Rustbreaker, we're going to go and see if we can make another Minor Pierce. And there we go. 3 Minor Pierces. Not nearly enough penetration that we do need. I mean, we... 4, 8, 12, 16. I mean, that's... Even casters, of all people, have 22 basic armor. So we're not even piercing all of that on our casters, but at least we have that, which will simply be better than damage. So we do have that, and now we can definitely check over the ratios and see if we are optimized. And now we are 12, 7, and 6. We are 12, 7, and 6 for our damage ratio here. Can we make that different? So we need less damage and more attack speed and crit. The only source of crit here is this Bright Steel Plate and the Golden Veil, and I don't think we can manage that. So we have 4, 5, 6 CPs worth, and I don't think we can swing that. What we can do is get rid of some damage in order for our attack speed to be better, but the only option there would, because we got this Rustbreaker with that Pierce, would be to get rid of our Guardian's Ward for some attack speed and crit, because that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points that we can split evenly, bringing 12 down to 7, and then we'd have 5 to split in between the attack speed and crit. I don't think this is possible. The Red Eye Nitro is a perfect card here. Is the perfect card here to try to do something like that. Get rid of this Guardian's Ward for the Red Eye Nitro. But again, we need that in the early game. I simply don't think we can do it. We can get rid of these 1 point upgrades here and maybe put more onto... just not going to work. So I think this is as far as we can go. But there's always a way. Let's see if I can try to find a way. And I'm just going to have to leave it at this. I am considering Rocket Spike instead of the Rustbreaker. Again, our Make Way is a huge AoE ability, so if we can get right in the middle of the enemy team, use that, pop Rocket Spike, that's shredding 45% of all heroes around us basic armor for 4 seconds. This is worth it on anybody but a caster, assuming supports and tanks build basic armor. Assuming that they build basic armor, this is worth it on anybody but casters. So it is a really interesting idea, extremely situational, so I don't think I'm going to switch it out. So there you guys go. That is everything. I'm not going to touch it from here. Having a little bit more damage, I think, because of how bursty this meta is, and just making sure that those few hits you do land do a lot of damage instead of trying to spread out the value of your damage over time. I think that is fine. I'm not going to worry too much about that. So there you guys go. Again, the end game build is this Blast Harness, Everglass, Rustbreaker, Guardian's Ward, Golden Veil, and Bright Steel Plate. There you go. I am naming this one Sir Prince Charming because he's a knight, he's handsome, and it's the perfect build. Ladies and gentlemen, please like this video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it, share it with the community. Please, maybe some people can learn from my process of going through making a build, checking up on my videos from previous, and just kind of checking out, you know, just checking out how everything works together that we know and that we've learned from our videos. So thank you guys very much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please subscribe if you like this content, found it enjoyable, or simply really learned something from it, because I would love to do it again in the future. Till next time, like always, stay optimistic and positive.